When it comes to children being medicated, there is a really big truth that seems to get judiciously ignored, which is that much of the time they are being medicated to control them within environments that don't want to take accountability, in particular within schools and family systems. And so what happens is the people with power over the kid, whomever they may be, will be observing the kid. They'll be observing their emotions, their reactions, their behavior, and make a determination that this isn't how the kid is supposed to be. Determine that this means that there's something wrong with them, essentially. And then a psychiatrist will come in and provide medication, which is supposed to help shape the kid. Maybe it will help dull their emotions or change their behavior or something like that. A really key thing about this is that using medication to change these things does not do so through awareness or growth. It's not like we're bringing awareness to our feelings and to our behaviors so that we can develop more depth and develop more awareness around these things so that we can then choose to operate from a better place. It's largely a means of force and control, at least much of the time. Now, of course, this approach denies the kid's perspective, and I would argue denies the truth of the situation, at least in many cases. So take the school system, for example. There could be many important reasons why a kid is not fitting well into that system. A big one for many kids is that conventional schooling does not allow for really any meaningful control over your own learning and your own intellectual and vocational development. And so many kids resist the school system because of this, and they may engage in disruptive behaviors or be emotionally reactive. And is it really okay to deny this very important truth and just push for compliance, in particular by drugging the kid, by trying to flood their brain with chemicals so that we can control them more easily? Well, we have an entire professional apparatus that does just that. Or similarly in families, maybe there is a lot of dysfunction. Maybe there's a lot of denial on the part of the parents that they don't know how to bring awareness to. And so the kid is feeling all of that, they're picking up on all of it, and maybe they're suffering a lot because of it. But again, if the environment doesn't want to take accountability and do something about that, then they might be inclined to see that there's something wrong with the kid. And unfortunately, so much of psychiatry is so willing to just provide the parents in this case with these drugs, which can control the kid, dull their personality, make them easier to deal with. And then what happens is the people in charge will tell themselves that this is about helping them, that this is really good for them, that it's medicine. But really what's going on is it's just causing a lot of trauma for the kid because we're forcing the kid to deny their own real feelings and their own real perspective about the situation. And so I think medicating kids in this way is often about denying truth. It's about foregoing the opportunity to look seriously at the ways in which things could be improved so that everyone's needs can be better met. And instead, it's about basically perpetuating the status quo, even if it's dysfunctional. And so how does this affect the kid over the long term? Well, something that's very likely to happen is that the kid will grow up believing that there's something wrong with them. And the reason for this is that the environment literally treated the kid like there was something wrong with them, as a way of basically scapegoating the kid. It basically said, no, we're not the problem, you're the problem. And then they proceeded to intervene in the situation on that basis. And so we can develop a lot of self-limiting beliefs as a result of this. Part of what this means is that we lose our connection to our inner compass, basically. And this I think gets to the question around how to heal from being medicated as a kid. We lose our connection to basically how we feel about what is around us. So when we were kids, maybe we felt really terrible about the school system, and we felt really terrible about what our education looked like. Well, that is typically not something that the environment is going to be accountable for and is going to want to really mirror within us. So we basically have to squelch that, even if it's a very strong impulse within us. And often the stronger that impulse, the more our environment will think that there's something wrong with us. And it could be the same thing within our within our family system. Maybe we are experiencing, a lot of manipulation or judgment or various things within our family environment that really don't feel good. Well, if the environment isn't going to be accountable for that, then we basically have to bury it. And if we react to that in a way that actually is appropriate, then that is just going to be seen as something that's wrong with us, and they might be further inclined to medicate us. And unfortunately, as kids, we're powerless, and we sort of have no choice but to go along with this on some level. Even if we are rebelling, we still don't have power in that situation. And so that kind of repression of our real selves can be so much of what we are forced to do when we're younger, because it could be that so much of our environment is so basically unreceptive to who we really are. And so what we can do in order to heal coming out of this is essentially the opposite of that. It's essentially being really receptive to everything that is within us. And as we do that over time, and we really make a focused practice of that, we become more empowered. We become more whole. We start to become happier, I would say. And we start to live more effective and successful lives in many ways. And that sort of a vision of what life can be is probably not something that could have been supported in our earlier environment because it simply didn't have the awareness. And when we're first starting this, as I would call it, a practice of really becoming more and more aware of everything that is within us and really using our own pain to evolve, it can be challenging at first because our conditioning can be so complicated and so dense. But over time, with focus, it definitely becomes lighter. That's been my experience. And another thing that makes it challenging is the fact that using your pain to evolve is not really the norm in our culture. Of course, in some corners, people do talk about, going to therapy and being more self-aware and all of that, and that's great. But I think generally still, having a real focused practice of using your own pain to evolve and really developing more and more depth is not super normal. And so that's something that I think is challenging about this, is that we're often not totally supported in our culture for doing this work. But still, there are great benefits to it. And that, I think, is fundamentally how we heal from being medicated as kids. Now, I just want to be clear. This doesn't touch on the issue of if perhaps we've had injuries from medications as kids. That is not something that I know about. So this isn't about that. This is more about how to heal from kind of the larger situation that maybe surrounded us when we were medicated as kids. So I really hope that some of these thoughts have been helpful for you. This is just kind of some of my general initial thoughts on this issue of how to heal from being medicated as kids. But it's a very large issue, and so I'm going to explore it in different ways in the future. So please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already so that you can get those resources when I publish them. Please also share this video with anybody who you think might find it valuable. Thank you for watching this, and I look forward to having you for the next one.